Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, Marcus is gone, but what's next?
And Quin Snyder makes his debut, but is it going to be a bump for more than just Trey Young?
And last but not least, in for the culture, out of all the people names you misspell, you can't get this one wrong. That's all coming up next right here on ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start off by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. But T, when you think about getting this show off to a good start, we're not celebrating, somebody getting released or getting cut, but when you talk about the Atlanta Falcons deciding to move on from Marcus Mariota, this is a move that we assumed was going to happen when he decided to dip out on the squad, take his football and go home after he was benched for Desmond Ridder. But I think what's the biggest thing that we can glean from the Falcons making this move today?
Yeah, it may not be sad, or you may not want to say that you are happy for Marcus Mariota's departure, but you are not sad about it because you are happy about that $12 million in salary cap space that you're going to get from it.
That's really what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's just be honest here. We're just trying to stack chips and assets and Flowery Branch, the end. And so that's what he gives the opportunity for. And I love what Terry Fontenot had to say earlier today when he was talking to our guys, Andy and Randy, about that. And even speaking about it at the Combine, and he basically said, hey, this was a move that we spoke to Mariota about, we spoke to his people about. So no one was shocked that it was coming. It was almost like an official situation, right? But the most important thing that I thought he said as well is now it makes it a clean cut. We know that Desmond Ridder is going to be there, but he also said that they are still keeping room in the QB room, and that could be room for another draft pick. He did not rule that out. Someone that they could trade for, someone that they can get in free agency. So, yeah, there's still a lot of opportunity there for the Falcons to also use some of that money to obtain a second in command, for lack of a better term, because I still feel like Desmond Ridder is QB1 until he's not.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm right along with you. Like, we've talked about this and had a lot of conversations about what that 2023 looks like for the Atlanta Falcons. And like you said, I believe in 2023, QB1 will be QB4 or DR4, however you want to use the acronym. So, but I think that Terry Fontenot is kind of, he's a sharp guy. Mm-hmm. And to kind of close yourself off to say, hey, he's our guy going forward for the next 10 years, that's kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you, because 4 games isn't enough to get a full evaluation of what this guy can be in the now and in the future. So I think that, the Falcons are going to continue to play it close to the vest when it comes to fully endorsing him in the public. But like I said, I think privately, I think they are more than likely going to move forward with him as the quarterback, at least for the 2023 season. Now, when you think about making that transition from 21 to 22, Arthur Smith was talking to AtlantaFalcons.com about how the vast difference between the styles of play in those years, right? Obviously, one being that you had Matt Ryan, who's arguably the best doggone quarterback in franchise history, and also, and so they threw the ball a little bit more, so. A lot more than what they did when they brought Marcus Mariota in last year. So I think that for me, though, I feel like there has to be some consistency from a culture standpoint and an identity standpoint, because I really feel, even though they had some success throwing the rock with Matt, I feel like they established themselves and establishing an identity last year and put the league on notice saying, hey, we're going to run the ball whether you like it or not. And I think that Arthur Smith has to figure out a way, even though he wants to be able to have more explosive plays on offense, he has to figure out a way to be able to maintain that identity.
Yeah, well, the explosive plays are going to come because you're going to have a run game, right? And so you're
Indeed, yes.
looking at, I think Desmond Ritter looked pretty solid in play action pass situations. So I think he'll only improve in that area. But also Terry Fontenot talked about the fact that the Falcons will not rest on their laurels. They love what they got out of Tyler Algier. What a late round steal he was. They're still
Indeed.
somehow getting something out of Cordero Patterson. It's like he's aging in reverse. So that's
Yes.
also a good thing, but not resting on their laurels in saying that the Falcons are still open and looking for another running back to kind of fill out that running back room. So to your point, I do think that also indicates to us that yes, the Falcons know their bread and butter. They know what they want their identity to be, and to have a quarterback like Desmond Ritter, that only adds to it. But ultimately speaking, it's going to come down to whoever is in the backfield for this team to be able to continue to run the ball and wear down other defenses and then give way to the passing game.
Yeah, and I think that makes you more dangerous. I think that puts you in position to have more explosive plays in the passing game because,
Yes.
and at the end of the day, you got to fortify that front as well if you want to maintain that. So that makes me happy. Oh, we have to bring in more offensive linemen that we know can play football. Yes, let's do that. And if we feel like the guy that's in that starting spot last year is not efficient enough, or we didn't like what we saw, we have the ability to go replace him by spending money or using draft capital to go ahead and spend it on that said position. So
Yeah.
I'm all for that, T. When it comes to making sure they maintain what they did, what they were able to establish last year. Now, one of the things that has been really interesting to me, T, is the fact that the NBA and the NBA Players Association have been in talks as far as coming to a CBA, right? And they just extended it until March 31st. And there are several things that have been on the table as far as what they're trying to talk about. They're talking about extending lowering the age range to get into the NBA to 18. And then also there have been talking about discussions about the whole load management piece. And I think those are some things that can spark some opinions or some conversations, right? So for me, I'll ask you this. I'll start by asking this. Which one do you feel would get the most backlash, so to speak, if they were to make those necessary changes, or they start having conversations about how to handle load management and start implementing rules? Which one do you think would kind of basically spark the fire, so to speak?
Yeah, I think load management will be it. I
Yeah.
think that'll be
Agreed.
the fire starter on the side of the Players Association, right? Because we
Right.
know that this is a powerful Players Association and a powerful league of players. And they have determined that in an 82 season game, especially with back-to-backs, the way they are really bearing down on these players, they're like, hey, we need to take a break here and there. Now, granted, back-to-backs are nothing new. They've been out there for decades and other generations managed it. But this generation has the ability to speak up on their own behalves. And I feel like that's going to be a place where if we end up seeing the deadline for the collective bargaining agreement extended, I don't think it's going to be because Diamond Sports, regional sports networks are basically imploding and that those 16 teams that they broadcast are going to get their rights back. I don't think that'll be it. I think lowering the age for the draft to 18 years old, I mean, it'll end one and done in college basketball, but we're kind of seeing some of that happen slowly but surely anyway, because you see some leagues that are popping up where players are being, fed into the NBA from those leagues. Players go overseas sometimes. So I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I think that one was one that's more like, that's kind of inevitable. We're all expecting that it's going to happen or it's going to return,
Right.
because there was a time when you could leap straight from high school into the NBA. I think it's going to be that load management piece.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see where does most of the pressure come from that actually makes the league take their stand on it. Is it going to come from the association, or is it going to come from the fan base? Because fans are getting a little bit exhausted. I think someone gave the perfect example of whenever, I think it was the last Lakers game that was here. Mm-hmm. And I think it was LeBron's birthday. And oddly enough, the Hawks celebrated his birthday, but he wasn't on the court. So there's that. Situations like that, I think, are what really frustrate fans when they pay their good money to see a marquee player match up against their best team players and that player doesn't show up.
Yeah, that's the whole. I really think that's the fire starter, if we're going to stay with that word. Because when you think about it, like think about all of the people that are involved in these decisions, right? You got the player, you got the coach, you got the medical staff. So are we starting to implement, hey, we have to have hardcore proof or hardcore evidence that this guy is actually hurt and they can't not go? Like, how are you going to be able to determine that? Because any professional athlete can come up with an injury. We saw that with Marcus Mariota. Like, yep, my knee, I need surgery. So it's because it's all about pain tolerance, right? So like, I can't take the pain no more. So all of those things come to play. I think it's a slippery slope you're trying to fight if you're trying to put some type of mandate in for these guys to go out on the court. And I think this needs to be more so of a, hey, let's start working on this. And not necessarily implement rules, because once you start implementing rules, you start bringing more attention to it, because I do believe fans are starting to get a little antsy about it. But I think if you start implementing rules to enforce these guys to go out on the court, I think you start pushing dates back. That's when doggone fans start getting upset even more, because like, oh, why we got to force them to play? They get paid all this money. So, and then we know the salaries are going to go through the roof again. Yeah. So it's just too much stuff to kind of to try to implement something hardcore to try to get these guys to go back on the court in order for them, because you don't want those. I don't think Adam Silver wants that smoke for real.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I don't think he has a choice, because it's really becoming a little too exacerbated. And so I don't know, like you said, if you try to force the hand of the players, that may be a backlash unto itself from the player's perspective. And then some fans may be like, well, fine, if he doesn't want to play, then, don't make him play. But most fans that I've spoken to, they really are like, come on, man. And check that about LeBron. My mind was going to LeBron's birthday. We actually dropped 47 on the Hawks, so there was that. But my mind actually went to Kawhi Leonard, because that was a game where people were sorely disappointed that they did not see him. But I think it's going to be something to where, hey, again, at the end of the day, players have been playing back-to-backs in the NBA for decades.
Forever.
And something has to be done. Like, you can't just not play. And yeah, like you said, I get it. Sometimes they really are legit injured, but sometimes we all shake our head and give a side eye like, you just taking the night off, like, and I honestly, and I know this probably doesn't sound very nice, but I'd rather you just I don't know, maybe it's you not come off the bench, they won't want to do that, but maybe you just find a way to load manage differently. And maybe it looks more like something where you have restricted minutes when you're coming back from an injury. Maybe that's what you do on a load management night. Maybe you have a restricted minutes night, so that at least the fans that pay good money to see you can actually see you take the court. But yeah, Jarvis, I think that might be the one that's going to be the tipping point, and that's going to be where that friction comes and determines whether or not that CBA gets ratified by March 31st, or whether we're seeing that extended out until the last possible scenario, which of course is the end of the 23-24 season.
Absolutely, and I think those some of the things that we'll definitely have to keep an eye on, because you don't want any work stoppage, because we know what that does to professional sports leagues. The people automatically take the owner side, and it just gets all ugly, and we don't want to deal with that when it comes to the NBA, because we love the drama. The off-season drama of the NBA is so great. We don't need to add more to it. That's going to make everybody upset. But what we want to do is we want to add some money in your pocket. How you going to do that, Jarvis? We need you to go ahead and go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, because they got all the good stuff waiting right there just for you. Because this is the number one sports book in America. You guys listen to the number one podcast in America right here, ATL Day Ones. If you didn't know, now you know. Because new customers, all you got to do is go there, and new customers are going to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your bet doesn't win. So if you lose your pants, they're going to give them back to you. So guess what? Up to $1,000 worth, too. I need $1,000 pants. Do you? Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, because they got everything that you need, right? They got the same game parlays. They got the spread, the money line, the total, the over-unders, all that good stuff. They got everything right there just for you. So don't miss a chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And speaking of no sweat, I would think that it would be no sweat for the Hawks tonight, right? They've got their new guy in Quin Snyder. They're a couple of games ahead of the Wizards in the Eastern Conference in the 8th spot versus the Wiz being in the 10th spot. So everything should be all gravy in this first matchup. Oddly enough, this late in the season is the first matchup between the Hawks and the Wizards. And it's interesting because most of the attention has been on, wow, very interesting timing that the Hawks decided to bring Quin Snyder in, right? But he himself gave a couple of reasons why he wanted to get started right away as head coach. He talked about wanting to go on a run in these last 21 games, how it just made sense because he wanted to be able to establish a culture right away. So when you think about his rationale and the fact that, hey, he said, I'll pull up off Costa Rica and pull up into Atlanta early, no problem, to make sure that I can put a stamp on this team and on this franchise sooner rather than later. What do you think that says about him?
I think it shows initiative.
Yeah.
I think, and when you think about, the type of guy he is, and he got a chance to David Locke got a chance to join Hitting Hard with John Chuckery, and David Locke, the guy who's the host on Locked On Jazz, and he's also the big man around these parts, right here on the Locked On network. He is also the play-by-play radio voice for the Utah Jazz. So he is very, very familiar with Quin Snyder. And one thing that kind of really stood out to me when he talked about him is the fact that he said that this is the type of guy that you can't fool. You can't fool him. He said he's the type of guy that is real. He's authentic. And if you aren't authentic with him, he will call you out. Mm-hmm. And that's what I feel like this team absolutely needs. Now, he's not coming in from a standpoint of, hey, I need you to keep it real with me, but and not willing to give on this end too. He's coming in with open mind, open ears, saying, hey, I want to feel you. I want to understand you. I want to get to know you as a player and what your ins and outs are. And I think a 21 game sample size is a pretty good head start too. So it makes sense that he's the type of guy that wants to come in right now, get in there and see what's going on with this team and also bounce the ideas off of the staff that's already there. And I think that's going to be really key too, because you don't want to get to a situation where essentially you're out there by yourself and you got all these disgruntled assistant head coaches because they know that, hey, at the end of the year, I'm probably up out of here.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, as I listen to what your thoughts are or your feedback is based on what David Locke's thoughts are, I'm thinking, okay, we never really talk about the coach having that dog in him. But if you're going to call somebody out and you're going to be an honest, straight, no chaser type of guy, that's also a way to set the culture. That's also a way to set the standard to say, hey, we're going to get after it. And if we don't all get after it, then that's a problem, because not just individually should we get after it or collectively, but when you break it down for individuals, I should see each and every person contributing to the collective. And that's probably why Jarvis used that side-eye picture of Quin Snyder yesterday for our episode, because what Quin Snyder is not about to do is play games with you when it comes to his expectations of who you need to be when you hit that court. Now, interestingly enough, there are still a lot of eyes, both locally and nationally, on this situation, because no one can really think about a true head coach hire at this point. And some people are saying in the middle of the season, no, it ain't the middle. This is 3/4 of the way through the season. This is unprecedented. Exactly. This is unprecedented. So it really points the finger at Landry Fields, who says that he is where the decisions stop in the front office. Well, okay, if that's where you want to stand, then the question becomes, we're looking at the last 21 games. It's the first sort of requiem on Quin Snyder. So does Landry Fields hiring Quin Snyder immediately based on expectations for him and based on Quin's expectations for himself, is it justified?
Ooh, I think that's one of those, pending, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a pending one. That's a pending charge for sure, because when you think about being able to come in and do what he says he wants to do, like, that's going to take some work, because like he even talked about in his press conference yesterday about how he has to go dig into the film and jump into the film, because he needs to see what the issues are and what is real, because he literally had just met with the players a couple of hours before the press conference. So, and there was a couple of guys there that were actually there for the presser as well, and Jalen Johnson, and I saw Bo out there as well. kind of kicking it and kind of seeing what's going on. So that's good to see. That when you see those guys showing up like that. But I just think from a standpoint of being justified, I really feel like if Quin comes in, it's funny saying Quin and I'm talking about basketball. Like I'm still kind of messing me up. So I almost kind of go to Falcon mode almost. But when you think about Quin coming in and saying, hey, here's what I want to do. Here's how I want to establish myself. I'm open ears. I want to see what this team looks like in the short term and the long term. All of those things can be justified by simply coming in and winning. Like they got 2 games after they with Prunty as the interim coach, and I think that those are I saw some things that were different, even though it was only 2 games. So I think with the $8 million head coach and a guy who wants to get in here right away, we need to see some differences in these next couple of games, T, because those are some of the things that we know for a fact have to be in there to justify this move, because there are some people who question, not me necessarily, that, hey, you only interviewed one guy. So how extensive was this search?
Yeah. And for me, it's interesting that you said, like, you saw some things that you liked and we want to see whether or not we'll see him again. For me, I'm looking more at the things that I saw that I didn't like, that were very consistent with what I've seen out of this team when it goes into its swoons. Now, they escaped on Sunday when they played the Nets, right? But what I saw that I did not like was 16 turnovers. We're back to that. So to me, that's a challenge, if you will.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, and then we're also, unacceptable to turn over the ball that much, unacceptable to allow the Nets to go off for 26 fast break points and 44 points in the paint. I mean, where's the so to me, that's kind of falling back to where's the D? There it is. There it is. So that's kind of falling back into that situation. And yeah, they had a good night against the Nets as far as the 3-point shooting was concerned. Yeah. But for me, I still didn't like 30 shots. Like, I still would have preferred you to not have 30 shots when all you had was 8 points in the paint. Or fast break points, excuse me. So that's the thing that concerns me, that I want to see, okay, what are some of the subtle tweaks in those areas that have been persistent, regardless of whether it was Joe Prunty at the helm or Nate McMillan at the helm. And also, I want to see a game where if you are leading and in a commanding lead 1, 2, or 3 quarters in, let's not have this back and forth. Like, they went up double digits on the Nets, but then the Nets went up double digits on them. They were up by 40-plus points on the Cavs, and then the Cavs come back and make it a single-digit game. I don't want to see that. No. Those are the types of things where I want to see what kind of tweaks, maybe not all tonight, Jarvis, but slowly but surely want to see what kind of tweaks Quin Snyder is able to bring to the table for this team, so that we can see a reversal of some of those lapses in thoughts and lapses in how they go about their technique and their focus, and how they use their basketball IQ. But speaking of that, I'm sure that a lot of other eyes are on what's going on here, because it's a very unique situation. So if you want to hear more about it, check out Locked On Sports Today. I'm sure they're going to talk about that, as well as the continuing saga of what this CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, will be in the NBA. And of course, the NFL Combine, because that officially kicked off today. And of course, position players get it in starting tomorrow. So don't forget, after you check us out to hear all about the NFL Combine, what's going on with the Hawks and everything Sports Atlanta, check out Locked On Sports Today. And of course, you guys love For the Culture, especially with the stuff we'll talk about today. It'll be pretty cool, but they have their own version with Take of the Day. So again, you check us out on YouTube, check them out there too. And wherever you get your podcast and download all your podcasts, it's ATL Day Ones for you first, but not far behind. Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Sports Atlanta family, listen up. I need y'all to go ahead and go to this YouTube page, Locked On Sports Atlanta. Hit that subscribe button. After you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you can know when that heat drops, because we are on our way to 6,000 subscribers, whether you want to get on the train or not. Because if you're listening and watching and you haven't subscribed or downloaded the podcast, what are you waiting on? Choose ye today. I need you to be hot about this thing, because we are moving and shaking right here on ATL Day Ones. But T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down on the show. Today is no different. How about this one, T? How I talked about how, misspelling folks' names and all that good stuff. This is like totally unacceptable, right? So New York, had a highway named after Mr. Jackie Robinson, the Honorable Jackie Robinson. For those you don't know about Jackie Robinson, where have
We're
you
not
been?
telling you.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you. Yeah, like you need to go look that up. I'm sorry. A simple Google search would do you justice. They misspelled his name, T. After the highway they named him after, they spelled it Jakie Robinson. Like,
Where?
what? Like, how do you like? Out of all the people, T, like, how do you explain misspelling his name of all people? The guy whose number's been retired around the entire league, and the guy who's been the face of desegregation when it comes to professional sports. Like, how did this happen, T?
And here's the thing. I've seen some different spellings of Jackie as it relates to women. So I've seen a Jacquie. I've seen a Jaquie. What I have never seen, male nor female, is Jake, because when I see that, I'm like, who's Jakey? I mean, who's Jakey?
Exactly. Yeah.
That is like, I can't believe that someone did not double and triple check something. I'm not even going to say that important.
Talking about a highway sign, T.
This is simple. I mean,
right.
Because at some point you had to put it in a program, right? And I'm sure at this point, every program that you utilize, everything from Microsoft Word to Adobe and all points in between, is going to have that little red sliggly line. Every program has a spell check. Are you trying to tell me that the government in New York didn't have a spell check? Or even the eye test, Jarvis? Nobody? Oh, somebody's head should roll for a minute. I mean, I don't want you to lose your job, but you might need to lose your lunch for like a day or two.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, you like you're not getting the French fries that they serve on Fridays. Like you're no French fries for you, no pizza for you during the week. So yeah, that is absolutely ridiculous. But the Department of Transportation said they have made it right. T, they got it right. Jackie Robinson Parkway actually is spelled correctly as of now. So and they replaced it not too early on in the week. So. It's I guess it's okay right now, but yeah, you can't be misspelling Mr. Robinson's name. Like, come on, like you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say the man's name. Anyway, but one more thing before we get out here, T. So the Braves have released their little promotional schedule release and all that stuff. So they got everything out as far as bobbleheads and everything. They're gonna honor my main man, the crime dog, Fred McGriff, in August. With his bobblehead, but. Oh, when you go down to what's going on with my people, my folks, my partner them, they are going to have an Outcast bobblehead night, T, and it's going down on Memorial Day. I don't know, but I might have to slide on out there for that one because they came out with the baseball jerseys and I looked up the price for that. I thought like, that might be out of my price range right now. But yeah, I can definitely give me a free bobblehead though.
Yeah. And when I saw it, I thought, ooh, Jarvis is going to absolutely love this. And he might have to pull up on Cobb County. He might have to make his way from South Carolina just for this game.
Hold up. I do not live in South Carolina, woman.
He does, everybody. Don't let him tell you all otherwise. He's just not afraid of a long commute. The end. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm like, ooh, I think I might have to pull up on that. But for me, it's more of, okay, if it's a bobblehead for Andre 3000 and Big Boy, what if they both show up? And what if they crack a mic? And what if they maybe do a song or even a bar? They could just do a bar.
Like
Look, I am the person who missed out on the quote unquote farewell weekend tour in Atlanta.
Oh, yes.
So because I missed out on that, I will forever hope, wish, and pray that they will just bless us with something, just one appearance where they're just like, bump it. We're here. We're just going to crack a mic. And we're just going to one song, one bar. You don't even have to sing. Just give me one bar and I'm good. So yeah, I'm going to probably pull up because I'm just hopeful that just maybe they'll decide to perform. And then Jarvis, I can finally let go of it because every time we talk about Outkast and every time somebody has some type of recollection of seeing, I know with all the attitude, right? Yes. All that attitude. Every time somebody has some type of recollection of seeing Outkast in concert, I get triggered. Like for real triggered. Like I get well, you can hear it in my voice, obviously. I get angry.
Yes. Yeah, I can smell it a little bit.
Yeah, not at all, please. Yeah. So literally, I think that once I saw that, I was like, yeah, I probably just need to break down and buy a ticket, because that is probably going to be the hottest ticket in town. Because you know what you don't want to be, Jarvis. You don't want to be the person who, like the late great Prince, would always do these pop-ups, right? And he would just shock the world. Like, number one, you don't want to be that person who's like, I missed out because I just thought they were giving away bobbleheads. And number two, that's going to be a weekend series against the Phillies, which is always good now that these teams are really battling for a top spot in the NL East. So yeah, I think that's going to be a good game all the way around.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game because, like you said, you passing out Outcast bobbleheads and the potential, according to Tenitra, according to her sources, they're going to go out there and perform. So, you know, if they don't perform, hit Tenitra up at Tenitra Batiste on Twitter. How about this? Well, first of all, guys, we want to thank you guys for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And also, check out Locked On Sports Today, wherever you download your podcast. They got all the good national news going on. Of course, they're going to be talking about the Hawks. They're going to be talking about the NFL Combine, all of that's going down this week. So make sure you check them out and make them your second listen of the day. And before we get out of here, I always ask you guys one thing, one favor, one big favor. I want you guys to make sure that you share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.